One of the drawbacks to a democracy is that once mankind has been freed to pursue his own ambitions and goals within the meritocratic system, and the dice have fallen where they will, there will no doubt be some that come out the other side better off than others. Society tries to mitigate the inevitable inequality caused by some folks being taller, faster, smarter or stronger than others via a commitment to charity, philanthropy and, perhaps most importantly, equality of opportunity. A mutual commitment to give everyone a decent swing of the bat of life and to remove as many obstacles as possible in order to maximise human flourishing. It is by no means a perfect system, but as Churchill said, democracy is the worst form of government except for all the other forms that have been tried. And now, as the shadows begin to lengthen and we head into the autumn of Western hegemony, it often seems that democracy is rather rapidly falling apart as human beings begin to obsess about the strangest of topics. The affluent and leisured, sofa-dwelling, screen-addicted citizens of 2023, sozzled on righteous dopamine hits from our digital crack pipes, have run short of wrongs to right and inequality to stamp out. So instead, we take a lazy but inevitable turn towards something altogether more spooky: radical equality. The capitalists' socialism, if you will, where affluent citizens, unencumbered by trifling matters like ensuring they have food and shelter, look guiltily around them for a way to improve everyone else's human flourishing, whether they like it or not. This has been the cause of so many of our recent cultural conundrums that we are facing, and it could sound the death knell to this current iteration of democracy. Its main manifestation, this enemy, is what is broadly referred to as wokery, an insidious equity cult which demands that the traditional hierarchical system based on socio-economic structures be replaced by ethnic and sexual grievance hierarchies instead. Society is no longer about the haves and the have-nots, as most people in the affluent West have quite a lot, relatively speaking, compared to their fellow planet inhabitants. It is now about the oppressor and the oppressed, and power and control. Our new roles are decided arbitrarily according to this grievance hierarchy, with straight white men at the top and blind disabled trans lesbians of colour at the bottom. The mission of the woke is to drag the straight white male, whether he lives in a palace or in poverty, down to the level of our wheelchair-bound trans lesbian of colour. Highly narcissistic, lacking in optimism, bureaucratic nightmare. See all the diversity, equity and inclusion non-jobbers who populate the workplace nowadays. And it creates enormous division. And nowhere has this been more evident to see than in the trans debate. Be it the horrendous chemical castration and mutilation of children, incapable of comprehending the magnitude of the consequences of undergoing irreversible medical mutilation, or private spaces for women to go about their intimate business, to public spaces where men, usually mediocre men, cuck males, swap sides and go head-to-head against less physically capable women in female sports. This comprehensively ridiculous debate rather hearteningly came to the head yesterday when it was announced that so-called trans women are to be banned from competitive sport against actual ones. The ever more devious and pernicious Stonewall, whose protesters adorn so many public sector buildings and whose ideology fills so many a public sector mind, were quick to cry, "Transphobia!" and falsely stated that so-called trans people were to be removed from sport. Not true. They can compete against those from their biological sex, as is right and fair, and astonishing it has taken so long for society to embrace some common sense, which has been noticeably uncommon for these past few years. So why has it taken us so long to apply rationality to this simple issue? Could it be the relentless shutting down of debate by playing the phobia card? Phobia, as defined in the Oxford English Dictionary, is the irrational fear, dislike or antipathy of something. It's a mighty allegation, used by the BBC fairly often, admittedly with an Islamo often before it, to quell any righteous anger about uncontrolled immigration, rape gangs in northern cities, or bombs going off at kids' concert. Doesn't seem too irrational to me, if you know what I mean. No one likes to be called phobic, though, with all the kerfuffle that allegation brings, and hence mouths remain shut. And women are deprived of their virginity and their rightful places on podiums. Countless lives and careers destroyed by the suppression of free expression. So, could this trans sport ban be the beginning of a swing back to common sense that those who hold their heads in ever-growing despair at the state of things are so hopeful must surely come? Is the madness of the trans sport debacle a signal flare that people are waking up to the egregious misogyny of this woke movement and all the harms, both physical and emotional, that it brings with it. Perhaps it is too early to tell. But this relentless woke juggernaut, so ingrained in all our institutions, can be stopped. The World Athletics Association and the brave women and men who campaign for fairness over equity have shown us all that we need to do. But we must do it, and we must stand up, use our unique and valuable voices to end this devious charade. After all, as the story goes, it only took one small child to stand out from the crowd and say, "The emperor isn't wearing any clothes."